So he smiled, he beamed. I still remember this. And like he'd been asked this question many times before. And he said, Brian, he said, the most important success principle of all is this. He said, learn from the experts. He said, you'll never live long enough to learn it all by yourself. You'll never live long enough. And then he told me stories about how he'd used these principles to become a millionaire many times over. He would get into a new business. He would start a new industry. He would see a new opportunity. And then he would say, who are the experts in this field? And he would call them up. He would go and see them. He would write them letters. He would take the time to go to the experts and ask them, if I wanted to be successful in this business, what are the most important things I need to know? And they told him, and he did it, and he made millions of dollars. Now, when you say that, you think, gee, I can tell you this, every mistake I've ever made is not asking the experts, is I just do it myself. Hey, I would have figured it out myself. By the time you figure it out yourself, you lost a lot of money and a lot of time. So I always remember that, learn from the experts. So the rule is to earn more, you must learn more. And if you look at successful people, there's one characteristic that they have. They all start off the same, but top people know more about what they're doing than average people. And they're continually learning more. Which brings us, if you like, to iLearning Global. iLearning Global is the state-of-the-art way of learning more faster. We always ask this one question, do you believe in continuous learning? If you don't, then this is of no interest to you. This is just academic. If you do, you believe that continuous learning has a direct relationship between learning and success, then the question is, how do you go about learning the very most, the very easiest, at the lowest price, with the greatest level of efficiency and effectiveness? And how much do you spend, and so on and so forth? If you don't believe in it, it's an irrelevant question. But it's like physical fitness. If you say, I really believe in physical fitness, then the question is, how do you become and remain physically fit? Well, one of the best things to do is to join a gym and go on a regular basis. Go 2 or 3 times a week, and it doesn't really matter where you're starting from. If you exercise an hour, hour and a half a day, 2 or 3 times a week, and watch your diet, you're going to become superbly fit. So we call iLearning Global, we call it a fiscally fit gym, because 90% of what is taught, or 80% of what is taught in iLearning Global is based on helping you to make more money. It's critical practical skills that you need to do your job better. Your learning ability is measured by your ability to get results. And so the courses that are taught are courses that help you to get more results faster. I've always given this piece of advice. I learned this, by the way, as one of my turning points, is one of the keys to success is to invest in yourself. And so how much do you invest in yourself? And the magic number is 3%. You invest 3% of your income back into yourself in getting better at what you're doing. In fact, there was a study done in New York recently, and they asked over 100 business people, academics, politicians, if a person had managed to accumulate $100,000 in their work, and they wanted to invest it, what would be the very best investment? And the consensus opinion that came back was, if a person had earned an extra $100,000 in their work, the very best investment of all would be to reinvest in getting even better at what you did to make the money in the first place. Because that would be an investment totally under your control, that you could use every single day, that you could completely self-direct, that you would own the results from, and would dramatically increase your ability to earn more money. So the magic number is 3%. The magic number of income is 3%. And I've said this, I learned this, by the way, and I began to practice it, and I began to teach it. And I remember I was in Baltimore, and I was giving a seminar, and there was a break. And as I was walking out, I ran into a guy, well-dressed guy, cool, relaxed, in his early 30s. And he said, you know, when you talked about self-development and the 3% factor, he said, you know, I was in this seminar 10 years ago. He said, and I heard you say the same thing. He said, I was 23 years old. He said, I was broke. I had a broken down car. I was living at home. I was barely getting by as a salesman. I wasn't doing particularly well. And I said, you may not remember, but I came up to you and I asked you, if you're going to invest 3% in yourself, is that 3% of what you made last year, or is it 3% of what you're planning to make next year? And I said, well, it really doesn't matter as long as you invest 3%. He said, last year I made $20,000. So 3% of that is $600. So I decided I would spend $600 on myself. What I did is I could go to one seminar, I could get 2 or 3 audio programs and 2 or 3 books. So that's what I did. And he said, my income that year jumped from $20,000 to $30,000. I said, geez, that's great. So that would be $900. So the next year I invested $900. I listened to more audio programs. I went to 2 seminars. I got several books. My income went to $50,000. I said, geez, this really worked. Because I could see the relationship between what I was learning and my efficiency at work. I knew more things. I was better at selling. I was better prepared. I could get better appointments and so on. So I said, what would happen if I spent 4%? So that would be 4% on $50,000. That's $2,000. So we did. Well, he said now he could travel to go to seminars, and he could. He started to get. He got himself a physical trainer, so he could be physically fit. Well, that year his income went to like $80,000. So he said, what if I did 5%? 5% times 80, that's 5 times $4,000. And he kept doing that. His fifth year, he said, his income went from 80 to about $140,000. He said, I'm going for it. Like all in, Texas Hold'em, I'm going to spend 10% and just see what happens. Because it's all tax deductible. So he spent 10%. I said, 10%? He said, yeah, I spent $15,000 that year. I said, I traveled to international conferences. I got a special image trainer, image coach. I got a special speaking coach. I hired a special trainer. People whose seminars I used to go to, I hired to give me advice. I got a business coach and so on. He said that year my income went from 150 to 225. And so I kept spending 10%. I said, that's incredible. That's an incredible story. I said, how are you doing? He said, hit $1 million last year. I said, $1 million? He said, yeah, it's been less than just 9 years. I made more than $1 million last year. He said, and I still spend 10%. I said, how do you spend 10%? That's $100,000 a year. He said, it's hard. He said, you cannot imagine. You have to work at it. You have to start. You can't just put it off. You have to start in January, because we're talking about spending about $8,000 a month. He said, so I hire professional trainers to come and work with me, come out with me on calls all day long. He said, I have my own house. I have entire libraries of audios and videos and books and DVDs. He said, I go to seminars all over the world. He said, I spend almost a week a month just in personal development, and my income just keeps going up and up and up. So what I say is invest 3%. Now, 3% of your income, we say if you're making $32,000 a year, 3% of your income is $960. $960 at $80 a month, which is what it costs to have 24/7 unlimited access to more than 100 of the best speakers, trainers, books, courses, audios in the world. That's if you're making $32,000, invest 3%, invest $960. If you do that, the return, according to several different studies, the return is anywhere from 20 to 30 to 40 times your investment. So for every dollar that you put in, you'll make $10, $20, $30. I was in Las Vegas recently, and a fellow came up to me, he was in his late 20s, early 30s, and he said, Mr. Tracy, said, you were here speaking with for our company 2 years ago. He said, at that time, you said, if you follow these principles, and that's the critical thing, it's just to act on the principles. If you follow these principles, you will be able to double and triple your income. You'll be able to double your income the next 2 or 3 years. He said, boy, he said, were you wrong? He said, I learned one thing from your course, and I increased my income 500% in the next 12 months. He said, I've never made so much money in my whole life. He said, it's transformed my entire life. And he said, and with one idea. And there was somebody standing behind him said, I learned one idea from that course. I increased my income 350%. The person behind him said, I increased my income 300%, 400%. I mean, with single ideas. And I'd never heard that idea before. I use it every single day. He said, I increased my income 500%. Now, just think about the ramifications of that. If you're earning $30,000 a year, or you're earning $150,000 a year, 5 times. What are the ramifications? Well, if you're single, you're probably going to marry better, okay? And you're going to have a nicer home, and you're going to live in a nicer neighborhood, and have a nicer car. Your children are going to have great opportunities to go to private schools. You're going to go to beautiful restaurants and take wonderful vacations and cruises. Your children will be able to go to great universities, and they will marry other people at the same socioeconomic level, and they will give you grandchildren at a higher level. So by learning one thing, you completely change the trajectory of your entire family history. As your whole family will be different for the rest of your life. And for the rest of your life, you'll know, I can earn this kind of money. So it doesn't really matter what happens in the economy, it goes up or down. You know you can earn this kind of money. You'll find a different way to do it.